when we practice hospitality in the church, it sometimes means that we need to change our behavior in order to accommodate the needs and receive the talents of others. Sometimes practicing hospitality means that we need to step out of our comfort zone. Now, this morning someone made a comment to me about a name tag, which reminded me that I didn't have mine on, so I went and put my name tag on. I see there's a smattering of name tags around the congregation this morning. Twyla is always real faithful in wearing her name tag. And we say, oh, but everyone knows me. Well, you may think they do. I try to be friendly in the church and go up and welcome people and ask them who they are. And every once in a while they'll say to me, and who are you? And I think, as much as I try to be friendly, I really have blown it in hospitality because I assumed that somehow they knew who I was. Wearing our name tags on Sunday morning is an act of hospitality. I know it's a hassle. But last week when we went back to Osceola, I don't know if they were wearing their name tags just for us or not, but it was so nice to see people wearing their name tags because even though I recognized their face, it just helped to recall that name. You may not think you need a name tag. You may think everyone knows you. But yet, wearing your name tag is an act of hospitality, an act of kindness for others who are present on Sunday morning. The story is told of a teenage boy who went to church with his family. He didn't want to be there. He was there only because he was forced, and he always sat in the back. Actually, he always sat in the back of the balcony. I don't know. Maybe he's up there. Maybe he's up there today. But as he went and found his place and was kind of getting settled in, he took his baseball cap and pulled it down over his eyes and began to rest his chin in his hand, and he was ready to settle in for his nap. And he didn't understand why he had to come to church to take his nap when his bed was so much more comfortable. Well, as he began to settle in, a lady came up and tapped him on the shoulder. And in his mind, he thought, oh, I've got someone's seat. She's going to ask me to move so she can sit in her seat. But that wasn't it at all. As the lady tapped him on the shoulder, she said, I understand you like butterscotch. She said, I do too. There's not many of us around, but because I heard you love butterscotch so much, I got this bag of butterscotch candy for you, and handed it to him and walked away. For someone who was disengaged and didn't want to be there, this lady had gone out of her way trying to find a way to connect, a way to show hospitality, a way to show an act of Christian kindness to this young man. Now, that one act didn't change his life around. But yet, he experienced something in church that day, a love and acceptance that he had maybe not often experienced. He took that bag of candy home, and he hung it up on his wall next to the poster of his favorite heavy metal band, and also a poem that he had up on his wall that talked about his pain and discouragement in life. Several weeks went by before he opened that bag of candy, that act of kindness that had been shared with him, the lady in church. Well, let's fast forward several years in his life. He's now no longer a teenager. He's now a young adult. He's in his early 20s, and a good friend invited him to meet her after church. Well, he worked things out. He still really didn't want to go to church much, so he worked things out of how he would meet her in the narthex after church, and he could kind of skip the music and the sermon at that point and just meet this friend that had invited him to come to church with her. So he got up that morning and showered and got himself ready to go to church. He combs back his hair. He puts his baseball cap on and heads to church, all ready to reconnect with this friend that he hadn't seen for a long time. And he's standing in the narthex of the church, and someone comes up to him and says, "Young man, And with that, he turns around expecting to be greeted and shake their hand. But he turns around and the person ignored his hands and said, "Young man, if you're going to wear that hat in the church, you need to just leave here." You know, one experience in church, he experienced hospitality as someone gave him a box of, or a sack of butterscotch candy. On the other hand, another time in church, he experienced anything but hospitality. As someone said, "We won't accept you the way you are. You need to change and become like us. You need to look like us, or you need to go out the door." Well, I hope there's no doubt about who it is that Jesus calls us to be. He calls us to be those that would give the bags of butterscotch candy, not those who would say, "Take off your hat." I heard of a lady in a church recently who has made it her mission to go around the church and take down every sign that communicates something negative. She took down the sign in her church that said, "Don't take coffee into the sanctuary." The sign that said, "Don't forget to turn off the lights." The sign that says, "Don't use copier without permission." She went around trying to find all those negative signs and to take them down, because even though they went up well-intentioned, even though they went up for a reason, she recognized that those negative signs don't produce or shape a welcoming environment. In the church, we need to be about reaching out with kindness, with love, with hospitality, seeking to make a difference in the lives of others. Soup for the Soul is a ministry of this congregation that happens on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. We serve a meal down in the basement to anyone that wants to come. Some people who come for Soup for the Soul are those that could really use a good hot meal, and it helps their family budget to not have to cook that night. There are others who come to Soup for the Soul who come for the fellowship, come to be able to connect with other people. There are others who eat at Soup for the Soul who have helped to prepare the meal or serve the meal or clean up from the meal. There's a number of reasons why people show up for Soup for the Soul. The last Tuesday of September, we had a record-breaking crowd. I believe it was 287 people that were served at Soup for the Soul, the largest number we've ever had. And then this past Tuesday, we neared that record again. I think it was 283 or 284 this week. So almost another record-breaking time. And it's great. One of the things that happens with Soup for the Soul is I never hear people make a judgment of, well, why are they coming here to eat? They don't need to come here to have a meal. There's no reason that anyone has to give except that the doors are open. You're welcome to come. You're welcome to be a part of that meal. Well, as we go on into this winter, there are many who believe that probably the needs of responding to Soup for the Soul is only going to grow. And so as a congregation, yes, we are responding to a mission of feeding the hungry, but it's also a ministry of hospitality. And last week we fixed over 200 pork burgers and over 100 hot dogs and a large pan of pork barbecue. A week from Tuesday night, we're going to begin serving soup, and so we're going to need people who are willing to act as disciples and to make some soup and bring that in to share, and it'll be an act of hospitality, an act of Christian kindness as you participate in Soup for the Soul. And I think many of us are very comfortable with serving a meal to a stranger, but sometimes we're more hesitant to get to know that stranger so they might become a friend.